Anyone needing to create presentations today, one of the greatest tools that you can use for creating kind of the outline and structure of your presentation are some of the AI tools that are out there. With that in mind, I wanted to review Beautiful AI and the Gamma app. One of the things that I wanted to preface this with is that these tools are really great at creating kind of the visual layout of your presentation, not necessarily the story and the structure of your presentation. If you need help with the story and structure, I still would go back to tools like ChatGPT and things like that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about pricing. Then we're going to skip back to pulling together the presentation as well. Just really quickly, with regards to Beautiful AI, they have a free trial that's 14 days. Then it goes to $12 a month. I'm on the annual plan, and it's $144 roughly for the annual plan. You get unlimited slides, AI content generation. You can export to PowerPoint and import from PowerPoint as well. And you can also export to Google Slides as well as PDF and other things. We'll cover this whenever we go through the slides. And then you have an inspiration library as well that you can leverage as a part of this plan. The next one you can have, if you have a team that needs to collaborate. So maybe there's a reason why you want to have multiple people to be able to come together inside a Beautiful AI and edit slides and things like that. That's something that's $40 a month per user per month. I honestly don't understand why somebody would do this, to be fair. It's not like you're typically generating as a group slides and then editing them inside of a tool like this. Normally, if I think about most presentations and most companies, you would just pull together the initial deck or whatever, and then send it off via PowerPoint or whatever tool that you're using, Google Slides or whatever. And again, if you see a use for this, I'd love to hear your input in terms of this. Just leave a comment down below. Be happy to hear any sort of use case somebody might have. They have pricing for people that want like enterprise pricing and things like that. If you need multiple licenses, and maybe it gets a little too expensive if you need too many of them. But again, I'm just trying to think of most companies that I've been involved with. You have one or two maybe people that want the ability to really pull together slides, and typically that person is creating it initially, and then maybe you're sharing it amongst an executive team or something like that. Again, I wouldn't see doing that inside of a tool like this, but again, there's certainly an opportunity, to do something like that. The second one here in terms of Gamma, so let's take a look at their pricing. They have a free plan. They start at free. Then it goes to $8 a month. This is the plan that I'm on. So whenever we do the demonstration, this is the plan that I have. And then they have the pro plan as well. So that's $15 a month. We'll talk through each of the elements with regards to each plan. So there's 400 AI credits that you get with the lowest level plan. The one sort of thing to remember though here is that if you export anything, it has the Gamma brand on it. And so anyway, that's just something to keep in mind. You're limited to 10 cards or 10 slides as a part of that plan as well. Whenever you move up to the $8 plan, now all of a sudden you have the ability to generate 15 cards. And you also have basic image models. So what this doesn't include is the Dolly model that many of us have used in the past. And so just to keep that in mind, that you would have the Stable Diffusion, Excel, Playground 2.5, and then Google Image Gen as the three potential ways that you could create images if you wanted AI images. And then also you can remove the made with Gamma badge that's on the slides in the free plan. You could still export everything. You get priority support, etc. The last things that I'll mention with regards to the pro plan on the right-hand side is that you get 30 cards here. So you can generate up to 30 slides with an initial prompt. The one thing that I've noticed with using the lower level plan is that even though I could generate up to 15 cards in my initial prompt, I can also add additional ones as I go along, and I could use individual AI prompts to create each one of those as well. So just something to keep in mind. You also have Dolly 3 included as a part of this. So that's something else that you could use. And then you can paste or generate from up to 10,000 tokens inside of the AI. So you can provide a lot of instruction to the AI model in terms of the slide presentation that you're wanting to create. And then you can publish to custom domains and custom fonts and things like that. There's a lot in this plan, and just something to keep in mind as you go forward. The one thing that I would do as a comparison, though, if you look at all of these things, plus some of the things at the bottom, the detail analytics and some of those sort of things, when we come back to Beautiful AI, that's all included in this initial plan, right? So they have your analytics already included in what they have here. So just a quick mention, again, between the two, I feel like you're almost getting, a little bit of what you get in the Pro plan on Gamma, in the $12 plan as well. And so anyway, just something to quickly mention. As we get ready to get started, I created a prompt inside of ChatGPT that I'm going to use for generating this, and I'll include it in the section below the video just so that you can have it if it's something that anybody happens to want to refer to in terms of how the models were trained to be able to create the different slides that we're going to create. But I just wanted to mention that I utilized ChatGPT to create this primarily just so that we have something that at the end of the day is really apples to apples between these two platforms. So you can see, what is generated between the two. So in terms of creating a presentation with Beautiful AI, the first thing that you see at the top here is that we could start with a blank presentation and then prompt Beautiful AI slide by slide if we wanted to, is the first one. The second one you could generate with AI. Then they have things from a template. You could start from a template or you can import a PowerPoint. So those are the different ways that you could get started. We're going to generate with AI. I do like this microphone feature. I've used it a few times now where, you could tell Beautiful AI what to create for you based on some sort of verbal prompt that you think about and have it type in. And so it's just a nice way to verbally prompt more specifically what it is that you want to have done. I just pasted in the text that we copied out of ChatGPT for the slide presentation, and I'm going to click generate presentation. That through the power of the internet, we're going to have slides pretty quickly here as well. In the meantime, I'm going to pause the video real quick, and the slides are starting to fill in now. It was just a matter of seconds. It really didn't take all that long. Just in case you're wanting to know, I don't even know if my clock changed in the upper right-hand corner here in the meantime, but essentially I feel like, again, that this has done a really nice job. Some of the slides might lead you to question, hey, what is this really about? So we're talking about SEO. This is search engine optimization. Not sure what this lady might have to do with this. One of the things that I want to demonstrate for you is how we adjust some of the slides. This is a good opportunity with regards to this specific picture that maybe I want to change this for something else. So if I click on the camera icon that's on this slide, I can replace the image, I can adjust the image, or I can remove the image. I'm going to replace it and replace it with something else. And I'm just going to type in internet as a keyword that I want it to go off and search for potential other images for. And then I just want something that's more or less illustrative of the internet. And so that was an Unsplash image that I grabbed a royalty-free image. And so now it's here on the slide. I have text options here, so I could actually move the text around. Right now it's left centered in terms of position. I could actually right center it. I could make it go to the bottom or the top, etc. It gives you some flexibility in terms of that. I could also adjust the slide layout as well. So let's just say that I wanted it to look like this, where it has the items on the left and make the title a little bit bigger. I could make that adjustment pretty quickly inside of here. All right, so what if I didn't like the colors that were on this particular slide, right? There is an option here for me. I click the 4 colors in the upper left. I can actually come back and I can say, hey, look, I want to adjust everything, or maybe I want to adjust certain colors that are on this particular slide, either the background or the slide color itself. Slide color is dealing with some things like this blue line. Background's going to be this sort of darker color here. So let's just say that if I wanted the background to be black, watch what happens. The text changes, everything readjusts itself based on the fact that I changed the background of that one slide. A couple of other adjustments that I can make as well. So one example could be that if I wanted to add my logo, so my company logo is D3 Digital Marketing, and here's the black on white one. I could bring this in, but as you see, it's on this side of the slide, and it actually looks a little confusing given that background, I could say, hey, look, I want it in the top right. And so by clicking on it there, it actually moved it to the top right of the presentation. A really nice brand element to add to here. In addition to that, I could actually come back in here and I can edit the theme for all of the slides, right? So this would essentially change everything so that colors, text colors, special colors, chart colors, et cetera, in the background, et cetera, all get changed. And oftentimes I've run into where you have a situation where the font that comes up may be something that you might not like. And so you could actually change that as well here pretty easily inside of here, or you could change the overall theme altogether inside of this setting as well. And so just a really nice, quick way to be able to make that adjustment if that's what you need to do. Let's go to a couple other slides and I want to demonstrate a couple of other things. So let's say that in this, if I actually wanted to move myself over, if I wanted to rearrange these bullet points, right? So let's say here's welcome to the presentation, outline of the presentation, topics, importance of SEO for business. If I wanted to cover this more or less second, I could actually grab the little handle that shows up right here. I could drag it to the left. You can see everything recenters itself. It's automatically done. That to me is a huge time saver. Also, though, in terms of elements like these, if I also wanted to change the orientation so that it's the little graph or icon that's there, and then also right next to it, I wanted the other element, I could change it to horizontal. It shows up like that. And again, it's just a 2-second adjustment and you're right back at it. And then lastly, if I wanted to change the way that this shows up overall, I could come up here where it says icons with text and I could say switch with smart slide. And then actually I could change it to any of these other elements and essentially wind up with something that looks entirely different as well. And just going back to the element that we had. Some of my favorites, though, just to show you a couple of the things that I really do like about this tool. One of them is this layout. So you can have the text above, the text below, or alternate the text. If I click alternate the text, it actually has that stair step sort of effect. And it makes it visually more appealing for me that all the text isn't in one block or in one line. And so having it like that makes it pretty nice. And then the last thing that I wanted to just talk about for a second is if we had a slide like this, where let's say that these are formed by numbers and then there's a title, right? If I came back in here and I said, I want to change this so that it's not just like that, maybe it's an actual bar graph at the end of the day, I can actually select like a column chart. And now it is a column chart and pops over in there. If I wanted something that's a horizontal bar, I could have a horizontal bar. There are also like temperature symbols and dollar symbols and things like that. Depending on the situation, you may or may not want something like that. But it's pretty nice to be able to flip through these elements and think about the story that you're trying to tell and where is the audience at? What are they paying attention to as you try to go through the different elements that are here? Again, visually appealing, but at the same time, you just want to make sure that in this case, old rundown barbershop, I don't think is a very good representation of local SEO. So I'd probably go back and change that. I might change some of the text and the elements. I would say that these presentations are not a substitute for understanding the story that you're trying to tell and making sure that the visuals match exactly what it is that you're trying to tell as well. All right, so let's take what we have here and we're actually going to export this at this point. I'm going to talk a little bit about, more specifically, about how exporting slides works inside of Beautiful AI. And the very first thing that happens whenever you're inside of the slide presentation, if you click the 3 dots at the very bottom, I just essentially went to the More menu here and I said, hey, look, I would like to export the slides. Now it's talking about exporting one slide in this menu here, but at the very bottom, it says export the entire presentation. If I click on that, we can get an editable PowerPoint or export the slides as images. You probably don't want to go to the exporting slides as images unless you want something similar to a PDF where people are getting static images where they can't edit the slides. Also, though, the nice thing is if you get the editable PowerPoint, they allow you to download the fonts as well that you're currently using in the presentation that you have, just in case you don't have these on your computer. And I've run into this with Gamma before where it allowed me to download something and then I can't save it until I change all the fonts over to something that I either do have or go download the fonts if they're available for me to download. And it just becomes this real struggle where you're trying to shut down PowerPoint, but you can't save the PowerPoint because of the fact that you don't have the fonts. And that's one reason to download the fonts here, or at least with the beautiful AI version of the slides. You can also, as I said, save it as Google Slides. You could save it as a PDF. And then lastly, they offer this option where you can just say, hey, look, I'm going to be offline. I want to install the beautiful offline player and then just play it right from there. In this case, we're going to export it from here into PowerPoint and then take a look at the slides inside of PowerPoint. And one of the things that they caution you about is the fact that some of the size of some of the things might actually change based on the fact that you're making an export here of the slides, and just to keep that in mind as well. So that took less than a minute. I just clicked on the file to open it, and here it is inside of PowerPoint. And to me, it looks, again, great inside of PowerPoint just to demonstrate for you. So all of the individual elements inside of here are editable. I could delete them, I can move them around, etc. And yeah, it's just a great way to have things overall. So in terms of the final product here, if you wanted to be able to use Microsoft Designer, one of the things that I would just caution you against that you might see, I'm not seeing it for some reason on this particular slide, but it is something that we'll see whenever we bring up Gamma in just a second. But little elements like this little blue bar could actually cause the designer to not work for you. And in this case, it seems to work fine. It seems to understand that's a little design element, just ignores it, moves on, and utilizes it next to the image. It doesn't seem to have any sort of issue with that little bar, but just in case you happen to see that you want to use the Microsoft Designer to help come up with other options for, let's say, a title slide or some other slide that comes along, you might want to keep in mind the fact that those little elements might cause you issues overall. All right, so here we are inside of Gamma. I'll demonstrate the similar sort of thing with regards to Gamma. This is the interface. I just clicked on the Create with AI button. This is the interface that it comes up with. It has the option to paste in text. This is the one that we're going to use in just a second. It also has the ability, like ChatGPT, where you can have one single line and you just type in text or whatever you want, and then it essentially comes up with the presentation from that. Or you can import a file. So you could have a document or some other blog post that you created somewhere else, and then use that into a new and create a new presentation based on that. So we're going to use paste in text. And so here you just pasted this in. There are a couple steps that we're going to have to go through. I don't really notice, to be fair, I don't really notice much of a difference whenever I go to website or document currently with regards to Gamma. So if I click on these, essentially it seems to create the same sort of document that it creates for a presentation, and maybe somebody else can point out exactly what the differences are. I just click continue, and so now it's going to ask you, do you want to generate something, which is what we're going to do based on this text. We don't want to condense it. We don't want to necessarily preserve it and just reformat it. We want it to actually generate something new. I'm going to go for medium size. I don't like slides with a lot of words. It copied in this business owners who are new to SEO and local SEO concepts based on the prompt that we have over here. So it automatically came up with that. It also automatically came up with informative, educational, and engaging. If you wanted to adjust that, you could do so here as well. Also, with regards to images, so we have two options here. One, we could come up with actual images, or we could have it generate AI images, which is what I'll have it do. And then this is where the different models, remember I said that DALL-E 3 was a pro plan option, but you have the Google Image Gen option, the Playground 2.5, and then Stable Diffusion. And as you can see that it had already chosen Playground 2.5. And then the next part is, and this is where it gets interesting for me. So I've already selected that I want a presentation, but this is here again in this menu. The second part is that in terms of card size, I'm going to select that I want 16 by 9. What you're going to see in terms of the output is that it doesn't just keep the 16 by 9 aspect ratio. It remains fluid. So I'm not sure why that doesn't hold, but for whatever reason, 16 by 9 doesn't stay. The second part is that the cards, so I need roughly 13 slides, right? You saw that in the prompt was that this went to 13, but for some reason it got to 10, then it went 111 in terms of the prompt inside of Gamma. So I'm not sure why it does those couple things, but those few adjustments are all I need to be able to continue. The last thing, which I think is really a neat feature inside of Gamma, is this ability to select a template. So if you're favoring certain colors or you have certain brand colors or whatever, you can make all of those adjustments in the custom, area here and actually pick things. I'm going to choose this fluo one here, and then we're going to click on generate. And then again, through the power of the internet, we'll review the slides here in just a second. Okay, so it just finished generating the slides, and we're going to go back and take a look at what it created. So I've always thought that the slides that it creates, honestly, are pretty sharp looking visually to me for whatever reason, whether I pick pink template or any other sort of brand color template or whatever. It seems to do a really nice job in terms of matching those colors from slide to slide. It also has done a fair job in terms of actually creating the text that might go on these slides individually. I'd want to really go deep in terms of the things that it's actually creating to really know whether or not if it's made any glaring errors. But you're just looking at it really quickly. I feel like it's done a nice job in terms of pulling things together. This thing with the fingers here and this one woman, I would definitely switch out that image. I would not leave that the way that it is. And I'd also check any other slides that they might have thrown in that might have words and things like that, just to make sure that, like, this slide has some things that are garbled, and whether that matters to you or not is something that you just have to decide as an overall design element for the slides itself. I did want to talk about this particular slide, though, just really quickly as well, that this is not 16 by 9 for sure. And so whenever we pull this into PowerPoint, this particular slide will for sure go beyond that aspect ratio of 16 by 9. Just something to keep in mind. And I understand that a big part of it is the text that it had to include. But again, I left it up to the AI to make those adjustments and decide how should the slide be laid out so that it could fit in a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, and it's not able to do that. It has this presentation capability inside, and I do really like this bar that's at the bottom where you can watch yourself go through the presentation just to know in terms of timing, on track or off track based on the time that I have to be able to present and just be able to pull things in. And one other thing that I think is really interesting that I've never used personally inside of a presentation, but this is an interesting design element inside of Gamma as well, is the ability to spotlight things. So by turning that on, you can see it highlighted the title here on the slide, but you can't read the text below. You also couldn't read my name. Then whenever you come to something where it has multiple points, similar sort of thing. It just highlights the different elements as you go through. And I think that's a really neat feature only inside of Gamma as far as I've seen. The last thing we're going to do here is export the slides. So we'll go through exporting it, and we're going to export it as a PowerPoint. As it exports, again, I'm going to pause the video and then I'll come right back. It only takes a matter of seconds for each one of these things. It happens really fast. It actually happened right in front of me. We'll just hop right into this, but essentially you see what I was talking about here. So if I look at this slide, it actually extends past the bottom of the actual slide itself. So if I wanted to maintain that 16 by 9 aspect ratio so that whenever I click on presented, it's not cut off, what I'm going to have to do is make some adjustments inside of the PowerPoint itself. Same thing with this slide with the timeline. This thing extends below, and I'd have to pull these elements up to be able to get them to fit back in. It's just one of the things that I've seen repeatedly from Gamma. It just doesn't seem to understand whenever it's going outside the boundary or how to deal with those elements in terms of moving them around and shrinking the text and maybe making the chevron smaller or whatever so that it would fit in there. But overall, I will post both of these presentations so that you can go have a look at either one and gauge for yourself which one is the winner here in terms of the tools that you might want to use. I feel in terms of the ability to have a rough outline and a construct to work for a PowerPoint presentation, this has done a great job in terms of throwing those pieces together. It's not going to know or tell the story for you. And so you're going to have to think about the story some other way in terms of how you're moving somebody along in the journey to be able to get them from either not understanding a topic to understanding, or even if you're trying to tell more of a business problem to solution kind of story. And so those sort of things are still left up to you as the individual who's pulling together the PowerPoint. So hopefully this has helped you. If it has, please click on the like button and subscribe to the channel. And would love to know your comments about which tool you wound up selecting for generating AI presentations.